Welcome back to Talking Real, the podcast brought to you by the Oklahoma Association of Realtors. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Long, and of course, I'm always joined by my good friend, Nabil. Nabil, how's your day today?
Man, this is like the most exciting day of the year.
The day that we get to have a live Talking
Exactly.
Real.
We have a captive audience. This is what we like.
Absolutely. You are forced to sit here and I guess you could turn your Zoom screen off and do something else, but you're not going to do that because we have a fantastic episode for you today where we're going to be talking about the future of real estate with this panel. And I'm very excited to introduce the panel. But first, if you're not familiar with Talking Real, you can get subscribed to this and listen to us because Talking Real is a podcast that is brought to you every single Tuesday. This is episode 140.
Is it 40?
I think 140. I don't know. We're 100 and something. So we've been doing this for a couple of years. So you got a lot to catch up on if you haven't listened. How can they where can they find the Talking Real podcast?
So you can find the Talking Real podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts, Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you want. Or you could go to OKRealtors.com/Talking Real, and it's got the links right there. Or you can listen online if that's what you fancy.
Absolutely. So come join the podcast revolution with Talking Real and listen to all the interesting things that we like to talk about on Talking Real. Again, this week we're talking about the future of real estate with our panel, and I want to get right to it and bring our panel members in. We've got 4 fantastic panelists from a variety of backgrounds. And first of all, before we really get started into the meat of it, I want to ask all of our panelists to first tell everybody who you are, who you work for, and give us one general thought on 2020 as you introduce yourself. Jessica, let's start with you.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me on this. My name is Jessica Hickok, and I am your Chief Executive Officer with the Oklahoma Association of Realtors, your state association, representing over 12,000 of our members. And I'm excited to be here today. I will tell you, 2020 has been quite a year. I'm just surprised for as much as we do the podcast online, and now we're doing it live, virtually. It's like I'm looking within a mirror, within a mirror, within a mirror, and that could explain 2020 for me. I've been in the industry 20 years. A lifetime ago, I was a real estate broker, but I've also been a local association executive and an MLS executive, and now the state association executive. So been in the industry a long time.
You are just all things realtor.
Yes, I eat, sleep, and breathe realtors.
Jennifer, how about you?
I'm Jennifer Arsenault, and I have been in real estate since 1998, so about 22 years. I know, I started at like age 5 or something. So I love it. I've worked in property management for close to 10 years, and I've been selling real estate with Keller Williams for about 8 years and have been the principal broker and team leader for the last 6. So it's been a lot of fun. We have about 300 agents, and I feel like the mom of too many children. And I would say as far as 2020, I think, I'm weird because I've actually enjoyed it, as sick as this sounds. My personal life hasn't changed, and it means I have really good excuse to say no to like going places because I'm actually a closet introvert. So I think it's been a great year for getting back to what really matters to people, and I've seen that all over, so I've really enjoyed that.
I love that perspective.
Yeah.
Michelle, how about you?
Hi, I'm Michelle Leader. I'm with Redfin. I've been in the industry for about 12 years. I joined in 2008. That was crazy. But I got through that. In terms of 2020, I'll say that I've been really impressed. I've been really impressed with how people in our industry have just rallied to make sure that we are able to continue to do the things that make it possible for people to continue their dreams of home ownership or selling, depending on their situation. And we've just gotten really creative. We've pivoted, and it's been impressive.
Fantastic. Darryl?
I'm Darryl Baskin, and I'm with eXp Realty. I started in my late teens, and that was at kind of the bottom of the oil crash here in Oklahoma. I've been in business for about 32, 33 years. So I did traditional real estate for a long time, still do traditional real estate in the sense that we transact the same, but eXp is a virtual model, and so we don't have physical offices, and that's been a nice experience. When I was a state broker in 2012, now I'm out of that position, and I'm back to just selling and having a great time. And I tend to agree with both of you. It's been such a welcome difference to be able to spend more time with my children as I'm doing my real estate work. And we've really embraced this. To look around, it's something to be proud of how we've all adapted and really served our communities well. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here. This is going to be awesome. I'm very excited. So we've got a handful of questions that we've prepared for everybody, but if you, as a person tuning in and joining us here, if you've got a question that you would like to be asked, go ahead and put that in on your Zoom there as a question, and we'll do our best to get to it. Like I said, we've got about not quite an hour that we can get through all this, but if you've got a really good question, send that in and we'll do our best to get to it. So let's get started. Jennifer, I want to start with you on this first question. What is one big part of real estate that you think will change significantly over the next 5 to 10 years or so?
I think I'm going to have to shred the duplicate contract copies that we have in the office. I'm kidding. My big concern about the future of real estate is the associates who have fantastic skills in navigating the market, who understand the logistics of it all, are very competent with the contracts, and the fact that they're having to learn tech. That's tough. And so that's the big part that I think is going to need to change, is them being provided the support so they can go out and do what they do best, that they don't have to be all the things.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And if anything about adopting tech and adapting to that, 2020 is sort of the case study and how to handle that.
That's certainly a catalyst for everything that happened.
Absolutely. Jessica, what do you think? What's something from your perspective as CEO of the state association that you think will have significant change over the next decade?
Well, I think that technology is definitely part of it, and learning and embracing tech. But I think we're going to start seeing a lot more creative marketing strategies coming out. Realtors actually creatively coming up with new ways to market properties. And I think, of course, I'm going to stand behind and say the code of ethics needs to be the base of that. But in these creative marketing tactics, I think it's going to be extremely important that we make sure that it's still looking out for the public, protecting the interests of the clients and customers. And I see that trend changing with the onset of technology and everything else. People getting pretty creative in how they market their properties.
Absolutely. A big part of what we're going to talk about today is the value of the realtor, and making sure that, there are a lot of forces out there trying to disrupt what realtors do in many ways. And we've talked about this on a lot of previous episodes. In fact, we've got a couple that are literally titled Disruption on episodes of Talking Real. And so talking about that and relaying that value of the realtor, I think is really important for sure.
I think that's key. For this next question, we'll start with you, Michelle. What is your prediction about the growth of alternative home sale methods, such as FSBOs and iBuyers and things like that?
Well, we're at Redfin, we're really actually very excited about this. It's just about giving the consumer more choices. Not everybody is going to fit into a certain box, and so being ahead of that and having an opportunity for other people to be able to purchase is really big. And I think that we're going to see that more and more as we go into the next 5 years. We've already seen different businesses starting to come up. I saw a commercial for one on TV the other day, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. So I think that people are going to start to be more and more aware that this is a different option and a choice for them, and they're going to embrace it. But there are going to be others that don't want to do that as well. And so if we can pivot, but still keep to our core message of what it means to be a realtor and to help people, we'll have a place for everyone.
I think those are such great points, and it's exciting while it's something that is fearful when we're agents and we're thinking of our livelihoods, and this is what we know to do and this is how we've always done it. Think about the opportunities that the choices bring to consumers that create changes and opportunities for us. And as long as we remain adaptable and we realize the focus needs to be on what services we provide and how we're getting our clients, buyers and sellers, from point A to point B, then we're not so married to a particular way to transact. We're married to the opportunity to serve our clients. And I know that sounds a little maybe noble, and you can't do a whole lot with that. There's not any step 1, step 2, step 3, but I think too often as realtors we are looking for the easiest way to make a commission rather than the easiest way to take care of our clients. And those that are going to really thrive and survive are going to be those who are really focused on the client. And that's not something to be afraid of, because no matter what technology comes along, and we can all look at this and see how technology has affected us. I'm so busy today that even though I know how to do all of these things and I have little apps, I have so many apps on my phone, I can't update them. I can't take time. The 30 seconds to go through the process of the app is too much for me. But I can hire somebody to do that. And so we're going to become so specialized in what we're doing that it's just going to ripple through our businesses. And that brings tremendous opportunity.
I think that certainly does.
Yeah. I'm curious to kind of piggyback off this difference in people that are willing to adopt different types of selling, whether that is just selling it themselves or other opportunities. Do you find that maybe there's a generational difference there now that we've got younger people coming up ready to buy houses, or is it something that it really just depends on the person, but there's not necessarily a category of people who are willing to use that alternative type of selling method? I'm curious if any of you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, we see pretty much everybody wanting the opportunity to know, if I could sell my house today, what would that be worth? And you're either going to say yes or no. And so that if they see a commercial on television or they hear from a friend, that's all still very relevant to how people come to make their choices in real estate and who they choose. They get an offer. If it's not the offer that they want, then they decide they want to go on the open market. You got to be ready for that. You have to have somebody in place that's going to be able to handle that, or someone who's going to be very good at making an offer on a property to give fair market value for their home. So I think that it can be that we see generational people accessing the websites or accessing the apps, but I also think you're still going to have the word of mouth. You're still going to have relationships when it comes to who you choose and referral-based business.
Right, with like the advent of all the technology that we have, mailers are still a thing, right? People were like, no one's going to mail anymore, newspapers are going to go away, but they're still there. So I think that's a good point. Yeah.
The political campaigns really think that right now.
It's exhausting. Back on track, because we don't want to go down that road. Jennifer, what do you think is one thing that realtors need to be doing to stay valuable and stay relevant to their clients over this next decade as we're really transitioning, adopting technology, all these various things that are going on? What's like, if you could pick one thing to say, this is something realtors need to be doing to make sure you're expressing that value and staying valuable to your clients, what would that be?
Darryl kind of touched on it, and I think it's being available and lending themselves to have the leverage that they need to do what they're best at and to stay very polished and sharp on the market, the trends, being highly competent so that they can serve the consumer at the highest level, and then decide not picking all of the shiny objects, picking what's going to be what they're going to do and do well and consistently. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
So that's I think just staying in the zone, like, and what gives them energy. And if it's something that they don't like, hire someone. Hire someone to do that.
I think that's good.
I still feel like trust is the ultimate sales technique. And I remember when I was brand new and I would go to these seminars and I'd always be peddled, this is the latest thing, these are the scripts that you need. And sure, all of that can be very valuable and helpful. But people are buying and selling based on trust. How often do you open I think my favorite example for me is remembering. I'll give you the bad mic. Remembering the stories of trains. And why don't we take trains all over the place now? Well, it's because trains forgot that they were in the transportation business, and they were in the train business. But as other modes of transportation developed, those just went by the wayside. And we need to realize that we're not in a specific time of the old MLS book where we've flipped the pages. People don't need us to see that anymore. So where do we evolve, and how do we advance as a business, as whatever the word is, industry.
Michelle, I want to get your take on this as well, because I think this is an important question of what is that thing that realtors need to be focusing on to stay valuable?
So I love this question. I've thought a lot about it I think about it all the time, actually. If you want to stay relevant, you got to be a student of your craft. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep learning. You've got to read your contract. You've got to know what the law says and how to be ethical. And you have to be involved. We're going to have change. That's just always going to come. And we're going to pivot. And you've got to be able to move. If you can't, if you stay stagnant, you're going to get left behind. So the most important thing that you can do to stay relevant is study every single day. Study your clients, ask questions, listen more than you speak, and you will find yourself very, very fruitful in this industry.
Beautifully said.
Nice. Yeah, I think so. The core function, like trust, is a main thing. Being knowledgeable, being specialized. Jessica, do you think there's another core function of a realtor that realtors should focus on in the next decade or so?
I couldn't agree with what Michelle said more, and she touched on the ethics piece of it. I think that it's extremely important that your moral compass needs to remember who your client is, who you're working for, and our industry certainly needs to have someone that they can trust. And the more you can instill trust in your clients and in the general public, I believe that the association can show the value of a realtor, but we need the realtors to be ethical. We need the realtors to know their craft, like you said, and we need to know that they know what they're doing. And that builds trust, and that, I think, is extremely important.
Yeah, and we can see in our economy, trust is everything, right? With referrals and ratings and all of that stuff, that's what you use to pick a product, to pick a service. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And of course, trust is, I said we weren't going to go back to politics, but obviously it's a big topic, right? We talk so much about what can you trust? Can you trust the media? Can you trust the politicians? But we face that same thing within our industry, right? Of can you trust the realtors? Can you trust whoever it is that you're using in real estate? And I think that it goes back to that code of ethics. And to kind of piggyback that question, to talk about the association, right? So what is it something that the Realtor Association should do in supporting the value and needs of realtors? Like, what do you think is a primary focus for the Realtor Association? Like, what can we do to make realtors' lives easier, to make their job better, and to help make them valuable for their clients? Jessica, since you're the CEO here at the State Association, I'd like to get your take first.
Well, I think that it's extremely important to not only know your craft, like you say, but if we can be that resource. We say all the time we want to be that resource. And how we can do that is by making sure that we're bringing the timely topics to the realtors so that they know what's going on in the industry. These wonderful brokers here have to focus on the market stats and what's happening there. They have to focus on what the industry is doing. Our job is to focus on supporting them in the advocacy ways. Make sure that we're protecting property rights. Make sure that we're protecting the business of the realtor. We can focus on that part by supporting the realtors in that manner. We can offer education. We can offer continuing education. We can offer all sorts of things that can further their career so that they can focus on the market. I think that's the association's role.
I remember back, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but we really messed up with Realtor.com. And I think we own 1% of Realtor.com. Realtor.com. I mean, that's us, and we own 1% of that. We cannot repeat this again. And we are now customers of our competitors who are selling us services that are creating a platform that are minimizing our role. And as an association, I think this is best for the consumer. Rather than having one entity, one corporation that owns the platform, we as realtors need to learn to cooperate and build and develop platforms that give us the ability to compete together and create more for the consumer, and have a platform that makes it easier for them to transact. And I think that's a huge opportunity that we're missing out on as realtors. We've done great with the central lock box. It's the access. It makes it easier for us to cooperate. We have a state contract. We don't have a nationalized signature service that we own that gives us as an association. And I think you understand the difference between a corporation owning it and an association owning it. And as an association, we're friendly competition, working together to create better for the customer. As a corporation, you are not competition, and you're working to create more money for your shareholders. And that's a huge difference. And I think we need to pick up that mantle and really bring something great to ourselves for the consumer.
Jennifer, you look like you were really ready to jump in too. So,
well, what I think is so interesting about you bringing up Realtor.com and trust with the consumer is what we're seeing out there today, and that is the consumer actually trusts these aggregates more than they trust the realtor themselves.
Bingo.
So I literally was at a real estate commission meeting, and there was an attorney there who had an article from Realtor.com who said, even this article on Realtor.com, this real estate agent should have read this article because even their own organization of Realtor.com is telling them not to do this. And I'm like, that's not true. It's owned by Warren Buffett. It's News Corp. Anyway, but you can't say that. So then the other thing that I think is interesting about that is just about 2 weeks ago, and this happens very often, a consumer reached out very upset that Zillow still had their house listed, and we had taken their house off the market. And they're saying, well, Zillow told us, Keller Williams, you guys put it on there. And I'm like, well, we didn't. We did not log into Zillow and put your house back on the market. And it didn't matter what I said. I couldn't convince them otherwise. And so I emailed Zillow, went through and long story short, we're all talking about trust, and there's 3 questions that people want answered around that. And it's, can you help me? Can I trust you? And do you care about me? And in some way or another, this Realtor.com and Zillow, they're creating that. And how do we do exactly what you just talked on and do that for ourselves and for our own industry?
It's fantastic.
I think that those are great points. I was just keep hearing you guys talk about this.
We're going deep today, guys.
Right.
Like this is good stuff.
Yeah. So I know we talked about alternative home sale methods before, but what do you think about alternative salaries, commissions, ways to make money for the agent and the brokers? Do you have any thoughts on this as the future draws closer? We'll start with Darryl.
So I think we're going to see a lot of change, and again, get back to choices. My gut feeling is commission's always a huge driver, because commission gives us an incentive, but it also takes a lot of risk off of the consumer. And so they know we only get paid at closing. I mean, the best attorney situation for me would be to hire an attorney that only gets paid when I win the case, right? But if you look at our business that way, what if we did a hybrid of that, and we had a little bit of upfront, so it's reducing some of our costs and the need to make a certain amount of money in commission, and we're spreading that. I feel like that's where, after some continued years of different business models and choices and consumers making those choices, I think we're probably going to end up with some hybrid of that. As much as we want to hang on to one way or another, it's going to evolve and really be good for all of us.
Michelle?
So, elephant in the room, we do have a different structure with the way that we pay our agents. And it is, I'd like to say that there's room at the table for everybody. And we believe so strongly in traditional brokerage and our model of how we pay our agents that we have partner programs where we partner with different brokers that have the same heart, the same value system as we do, and they're their brokers. They interview with us, and they get to be able to work with us on the site that we have. As far as commissions versus revenue, I can't get too deep into the woods. We're a publicly traded company, but I will say that it does give a person options. If you love to help people buy and sell homes, and your passion when you wake up in the morning is, I want to help somebody's dreams come true, then you have to start thinking, well, how am I going to start to do that? What's my team going to look like? How am I going to pay for this really ambitious passion that I have? And there are going to be different businesses that are going to come up fairly quickly, and we're already here. That gives you the option to have limited overhead and go out and be able to work with people at a high volume and do it every day and practice every day. So I think that we are going to see that more, because I think more and more people, as they come to understand our business model more and others more, they'll be at least willing to listen and to say, okay, well, here's my option, which works best for my lifestyle, because we are different, but we're able to have an opportunity to open the industry up to a little bit more. I would say that if you don't have a huge bank account or a savings account and you're just getting started in this industry, it might be very expensive for you to pay for marketing and pay for your signs and pay for your team and your support and all of those things. And having a business model like ours or others allows you to jump into it, learn real estate, practice it every day, and then so I think we'll see more of that coming in the future.
Like I said, I think there's room for many different models at the table, and I think it's very interesting. I think it is a good discussion to have, because ultimately we're looking at what is best for the industry, how do we support realtors, and if people want to come in, help clients, help the public out there, advocate for many of the same things, and want to be a part of this association, then having different business models helps bring more of those people in, so that there are different options. So I think it's fantastic and an interesting conversation to have, that there are a lot of different ways to do business. So Jennifer, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
I agree with both of you quite a lot. I think, there's a different type of agent out there. There's the dependent agent and more of an independent agent and interdependent agent, and I have every kind of style that I work with. And so I can certainly see the value for them to operate more in a dependent style. And then, there's others that, the sky's the limit for them, and they're very entrepreneurial. And so being able to have options, like you discussed, that help them to support and be in the industry. So it's not like HGTV, right? Like, we don't show 3 houses and then get a $50,000 check.
Well, that's not how it works.
No. Yeah.
So let's talk about the future of the real estate brokerage, because we've kind of entered into that of now, how does it look for the realtors out there that are doing business? And so I'm kind of curious what you guys think over the next 10 years, what that will look like. Is this something that we were going to see, because Darryl, as you mentioned, cooperation and competing with other models out there. Is this something that we're going to see more consolidation into larger brokerages? Do you think we're going to see more proliferation of smaller and independent brokers? People really trying to find like a niche that they're really trying to work in, some hybrid? I mean, what do you think it's going to look like? What is the brokerage of the future? I'm really interested to hear all your takes on that.
I think, yes, we're going to see a lot of consolidation, and I think, yes, we're going to see a lot of fractioning. And I think, for example, my personal story is I had really resisted going on my own, because I didn't want the headaches of management and running an accounting office and dealing with the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission to make sure licenses were updated, et cetera. There's a lot of management there. And so when my company model came along, it was a servicing model to allow me to operate more independently, save money, and offload a lot of those tasks or outsource it. And so but that was not made available until technology came around to allow us to operate that way. And then the rules have to change, the rules at the state level and the Real Estate Commission and all of these things. So we are at an industrial revolution times 10, in my opinion. We have not even begun to scratch the surface of what can be done with electronic signatures, with driverless automobiles, with electronics, with LED lights. I mean, these things sound like they're unrelated to what we're doing, but they are going to have an impact as years go. So we have to look at our models this way. So the mega brokers, and I say this very lovingly, the mega brokers have to deal with the reality that they don't want to become the Sears and JCPenney and Blockbuster, and they have to adapt. What does that look like? And as they adapt, do they absorb smaller companies, startups that have better ideas based on the current assortment of options? And I think it's really hard to predict, but there's going to be an awful lot of change. And I keep going back to the opportunity because we don't even know what is about to hit us. And when the travel agent, who has a travel agent in their phone? I mean, we really don't much anymore. We have to be careful that we don't go that way. And now they're coming back, though. You see, they're coming back because they've learned how to provide a service that gives us a real value. Because who has time for all that? But it has to go through the evolution. And if we see that evolution coming and we embrace it and take charge of it, then we'll control where it goes rather than having it control us and put us out of business.
That's well said. Michelle?
So I do see that we're going to have different types of business models come out, and that's how Redfin was born. Actually, it was a tech company as it started with map-based searching, and then we decided that the best way that we could help the consumer truly was to be a full-service brokerage where we could help people and pair them with their homes or sell their homes. You have iBuying now, which is going to allow somebody to get an offer right there on the spot and decide whether or not that's going to work for them. You have transient people moving to the middle of the United States because it's so unaffordable at times to live on the coasts, and so you can use technology to help somebody that's sitting in Seattle walk through a property in Oklahoma, and I can tell you that they're very excited about what they can get in Oklahoma. It's amazing comparatively. So I think that the world is getting smaller because we have technology, and it's getting faster because we have technology, and we're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to embrace this change and continue to keep at the forefront of our mind, how do we best serve our customer, and how do we show them we're passionate about our industry, that we love our craft, we want to get them in their homes, we want to be accountable, we want to have our reviews out there right in the forefront, the good, the bad, the ugly. I have not gotten all 10s. I'll be honest about that. I got a one time, but but I want people to know that there's authenticity in that, and that they can count on me to overcome those challenges, and they can count on us collectively to embrace those things. I mean, the people that I'm up here with are just really, really special. They're here talking about the future of real estate because they care about it, because they want their agents to be, or their salespeople to be very successful, and they want to pivot and change as well. And to your point, if we have department stores that have these huge overheads, and they the community is able to get some toothpaste in 24 hours to their doorstep, why do they need them? They have to think of a way to stay relevant. And we can do that with technology, but we can automate the things that can be automated, but you still need a human to do the things that humans need to do. And so that goes back to my point before, which is even if we do have different growths, even if we see smaller niche brokerages where, you are specializing in a particular type of real estate, you still have to study. You still have to practice. You still have to get out there in front of things and just ask your customer, how can I help you? How can I best serve you? What would make sense to you? So,
Jennifer, what do you think? What's the future real estate brokerage look like?
I think, honestly, no one knows. And it's kind of terrifying. I mean, really, because we don't. I think the industrial revolution that we're in of data mining and AI, we haven't even really scratched the surface in, like you said, in real estate. And the reality of it is our regulatory system, our education system isn't set up to move as fast as tech is moving. Patents, even, it's obsolete before it gets approved. And so it's interesting because, as you were saying, these big conglomerate companies, especially, the truth is the truth. Like with franchises, there's so much money and so many people with their hands in the pot, it makes it difficult to pivot because, everybody wants to get paid. And so navigating that along with the regulatory changes that grant Cody has done a fantastic job. I'm really excited about what the Real Estate Commission here in Oklahoma is doing, and I think there's more opportunity there. It was interesting because I know you guys know this, and maybe some of our listeners don't, but Zillow actually became licensed in the state of Oklahoma in February of 2020 this year. So what does that mean? Does that mean that they need to now keep their website more accurate? Just curious. So I think there's none of us really know, other than like we've all touched on, the skill set, the study, making sure you're an expert of your craft, that you're connecting with one another, not seeing each other as competitors, but locking arms and really figuring this thing out together for ourselves and for the industry itself and for the consumers. So I think it's an exciting time. I mean, I think we're all going to look back on this and be like, whoa.
Jessica, what do you think? How can the association support that change and transition as well?
Well, I think that, what I'm hearing is, yes, we can't keep up with the technology as far as with the updates and everything that happens so quickly. But I think that also proves that the role of the realtor is extremely important because it's going to be consistent. An app can't negotiate a contract for you. An app can't go in and talk you off the ledge when you're sitting there thinking, what did I just do, or what did I just write a contract on? A realtor can do that. So I think the one thing that the realtor brings to this is the consistency. Now, Jennifer says, we don't know what the future brokerages are going to look like, and she's absolutely right, but what a great place to be, because the brokers have the ability to make it what it needs to be in the future and keep their place in the transaction, central to the transaction. I think that's extremely important. Consistency with the digital signatures, like you say, consistency with the forms, consistency with the business practice, and the ethics that we live by are so important. And that's what I hear each of you saying. And I'm so glad you guys are here today, because you do care about the future, of course, but you also care about the consistency of what it is the realtors are doing. And earlier I said the realtor has to be authentic. Part of being authentic is also being consistent in what we do. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity, which is good, but the consistency is very key.
So a couple of you mentioned automation technology, which I was like, perfect. That's what I'm going to ask about next. And then Darryl, you mentioned not becoming the travel agent, right? But then they're making the comeback. As technology is on the rise and it's growing at an extremely rapid pace, what do you see the future of automation in the real estate industry to be, and what core functions of the realtor would it take away?
Follow up, I always fall back on what my experience is. When I go on to unnamed cable provider and begin a chat or make a phone call, what are my frustrations? What are my pain points? What do I just wish? What am I screaming at my phone about that I wish they would just fix? That would really be simple if we put the personal touch in it. And I step back and try to look at my own business that way. And by the way, I've got some of these pain points in mind, and I'm hearing it from my customers. And AI, artificial intelligence, is going to become better and better and better. However, in the meantime, we're mixing artificial intelligence with a simple drip campaign, and we're creating white noise. And people don't feel like that's authentic. They don't really think that we care about them, because all we're doing is sending them junk. So with all of this noise and being relevant, it's important that we are learning to shift to manage our artificial intelligence, manage our follow-ups, to make sure people feel like there's a real connection there, because they're tuning us out. And I think that's one of the biggest dangers. The other is, well, I won't get into that. I'm going to leave it at that.
Perfect.
So there are a lot of different ways you can automate, from when a customer goes online to search for their home, which we know that the majority of them do start online. They can click a button and they can say, I want to go and see this house at this time. And then that can automate a process where a calendar is attached to it, or many calendars are attached to it. And then all of a sudden someone is available who's licensed and knowledgeable in their state, who shows up and is at the home. We can use data to help with some of the homes that we're sending to our clients, because they have given us some information about what they're looking for in a home, and the algorithm itself can be smart enough to give them homes that are more applicable to their search. We can automate different deadlines that are important to the customer that they need to make when they're thinking about, when am I supposed to get my earnest money in, or when is my inspection period over. We can automate and we can send those reminders out so that you, as the agent, can go out and do the things that need to be done, like negotiate the TRR and to help the clients decide, what is the quality of life things. When we talk about houses, we talk about 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, but how is it going to feel to live in this home? How are you going to, when you drive up to it, are you happy? Or is this somewhere you can live for, 5 to 7 years? I mean, this is a relationship. It's going to last a long time. So you need to make sure that you really, really want to be there. And so those things we automate on the front end so that you have more time to think about your strategy on how you're going to help your client and get them to their dreams and their goals of closing on their homes.
So you'd ask, what pieces would we no longer have to do?
Right. Where do you think automation is leading towards in the real estate industry, and what core functions would that take away from the realtor today?
So I share this with all of my realtor friends who've felt this pain of the 9:30 p.m. text message. It's like, when's the such and such going to happen? And so, and that just being said, that the consumer really, it's the information on demand, right, that they want, or and the what's next, not necessarily the real estate agent. And so, how many of us have been to those classes where they're like, change your voicemail that you don't take calls after 7. Well, that's not very helpful. And not that I'm advocating for us texting at midnight, but really, like you said, the automated pieces and or even a personalized type text messages of just daily, like, here's what happened, here's what's coming, here's what happened, here's what's, something along those lines, I think will be just wonderful for so many of us.
Can I shift that a little bit from the public and the customers and the clients to what our realtors need in automation? And I will candidly sit here and tell you, this is one thing that I don't feel we have done a great job at, but we're getting much, much better, is when the realtor member needs that assistance, is the association there for them? We need to add a layer of Amazon to the way the membership process works. They should be able to get online to become an association member. They shouldn't have to go visit the association and fill out a paper application. It needs to be automated to where it's seamless and it's easy, and it can bring the members together for that consistent basis. But I will tell you where we have really excelled is being there for our agents and our members with things like the legal line, because brokers are needing that assistance and needing some guidance on a contract, and the automation isn't necessarily there. But yet, if you have a resource that you can call your association and say, hey, I need some help with this, well, lucky for us, we've got a lawyer on staff that can answer those questions and those legal line questions. He's also the podcast host, so you get what that. Yeah, I mean, hey,
he's really good too. Just I'm not sure at what.
But I think that that's extremely important for us to be there in the, in the 24/7. The 24/7 attitude that people want, without it being 24/7, right?
I mean, I'm that person that, I'm laying in bed like, oh, I wonder what OAR, I'm just kidding. But really, those things pop in your mind, and so to be able to hop on and look really quickly so that you can, know.
But I think automation goes not only to the customers and clients, but automation to the realtor brokers in supporting them. And I think the associations, all of us, need to get better about that.
Yeah. And I'm interested to see how this does develop, because obviously one of the things that's developed is like client portals and things like that. Now, a lot of times, especially early iterations of these things are really clunky and kind of hard to use. And people are like, it's just another thing. It's another platform. It's another login. It's a whatever. And so I think the more we can figure out how to implement those things seamlessly so that it's not clunky, it's useful, it'll take away those. It's not necessarily that you won't get that 9 p.m. text message, but maybe you'll get a lot less of them. And certainly that's a goal. And hopefully those are the kinds of things that we can start to figure out. But as we get close to the end of our time, I want to have one final opportunity to give us a message of hope for the next decade for the realtors. What's something that you just think is a bright spot that we can share with all of our members as we move forward into 2021 and beyond? Jessica, let's start with you and we'll just kind of go down the line.
What is one thing I think that we can do for hope is, I think the biggest thing is know that we care. We're not going away. The Realtor associations, the Realtor itself, the brand, it's not going away despite no matter what's coming. And we had mentioned it earlier, everything cycles. Everything cycles, and you as the realtor should stay informed. Stay informed so that you can make good decisions for your business and setting up your brokerage and running your brokerage. Stay informed with what your industry is doing and then roll with the punches. But as far as hope, everything cycles, and I think there is a lot of hope on the horizon for making the realtor profession and the industry so much better.
Ditto. No, it's really good. I mean, guys, this is like the most exciting time ever, and you get to be a part of it. And so just being willing and open and navigating things, asking questions, being interested in others, looking at other industries and what they're doing, and being willing to change. And don't quit. Don't give up. Don't quit. Get gritty. And I mean, it does cycle. We've seen, iBuyers, it's a new term, but I remember cars being wrapped 15 years ago saying, if I can't sell your house, I'll buy it. Well, it was not what they were listing it at. So that concept's been around for a while. So we're not going anywhere. Well said. We're not going anywhere.
I would say stay curious. Just keep asking questions. If you don't know something, don't assume it. Don't pretend. Go ask the question. Go figure out the information and study. I just can't bring that home enough. I mean, it's our responsibility. It's something that we promise to do, and it's something that I'm really proud of. For my team and the people that I get to work with. When I get to work with people from other brokerages and they're just rock stars, I am like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being so amazing during this whole process. We love our cooperating brokers. We want to be part of a really good association relationship. And we'll ask questions like, if somebody has a great idea, awesome, please share it with me, because that's what's going to help more and more customers. It may not be that's not your transaction to own, but then the next one you'll be more informed. You'll be able to offer more to consumers and to extend olive branches and friendship across the cooperation. You're
all three amazing. So amazing that I forgot the question. But I'll tell you that I think there's I want to encourage new agents. And we have, here I am, I'm sitting here 30 plus years in the business, and I think of all the baggage that I am dragging behind me. And I'm sometimes very envious of a brand new agent who comes in and who is starting from scratch and learning. With all of this change that we're talking about, it means that if you've been in the business a while, you've had to relearn everything. And so this is a great time to start in the business, and yet it is so overwhelming. I feel sorry for those agents at the same time. Don't be afraid to share. If you're a more seasoned agent, don't be afraid to extend and share and help some of these newer agents become good at something. Just one thing, 2, 3 things, and outsource to them. If you're a new agent, don't think you need to go in and make 100% of a commission and have bragging rights. Learn to cooperate and assist and work together, and I think that's how we're really going to win. And we're also going to be able to bring in a whole new crop of agents who are going to be able to take us into a new generation of real estate.
I love it. Teamwork makes the dream work.
This was fantastic, Nabil. Listen, we've had fantastic guests on Talking Real before, but we've never had 4 at the same time and live.
And live.
It's amazing. I can't believe we pulled it off. Do go check out some of our other amazing guests that we've had recently. Head on over to OKRealtors.com/Talking Real, or just go ahead and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
That's not an option. Do it.
Do it. It's a mandatory right now.
We'll wait.
That's a joke that's so played out. Everybody does that. We're sorry. But thank you so much for tuning in to this first session of the Breakthrough Conference. We're excited that you're here with us. We hope that this was valuable. I just could listen to them talk about this all day long. I think it was fantastic.
Yeah, you guys hanging around after this? Yeah? Cool.
Awesome.